Well, I'm here with Tom Eckdahl, and we're in the camper cabin at Chester Woods County Park. There are two camper cabins here, and Friends of Chester Woods has been instrumental in funding of these cabins. And so this is going to be our recording studio today. Tom is the park manager here, and we're looking forward to the 25th anniversary of Chester Woods County Park coming up, and so we're doing a number of interviews in this process. Well, Tom, I want to thank you for taking the time this afternoon on this very chilly February day to answer a few questions about our park, and I want to thank you for being our park manager.
Well, what is the temperature right now?
Well, I think they said it was going to be maybe a high of about 8 today.
And so we're sitting in this building here as comfortable as can be, right?
Yes, we are. So
Yeah.
you had somebody come up a little bit earlier and set it at 65, and it's just very comfortable in this camper cabin.
It is. It is.
So, well, maybe you could tell us a little bit how you got connected here at Chester Woods and all the kind of training that had to have happened before you were able to qualify for that.
Sure. Well, I grew up just on the west side of the Twin Cities on a small hobby farm, and my folks, there was a family of 8 of us kids, so there's quite a few of us there, me being the second to the youngest. I kind of ventured into the Rochester area to help one of my older brothers out with his produce farm at the time, and at that time I was introduced to staff out at Oxbow Park, and the staff that was back in the early 90s. They were
and Oxbow is another Olmsted County Park.
Yep, our sister park. And so they were looking for seasonal workers, and I ended up applying for a 6-month position out there. Ended up actually staying for over a year and a half. Beyond that time, working 3 6-month positions before leaving the park to seek out some other part-time work while this park was being developed.
So and now you're living here at the park in a park supplied home, and since you've become a manager, is that correct?
Yes.
And you became manager here at what year?
I took over the leadership position here in 1998. It was that summer of 98 that Earl retired, the former park manager of Chester Woods and Oxbow Park. And so we moved out here, moved a family of 2 into the residence. We grew to be a family of 3 since moving in back in 98.
Okay. And what are some of the advantages of living here on site?
Well, much like the advantages of growing up on the farm, you're never that far away from work. You step outdoors, you're involved with work immediately. It's been a great place to raise a family. We've absolutely enjoyed the resident that the county provides, and so it's, you know, when we get snowstorms that come through, and last year's blizzard kind of reminds me of that. It was a short walk to work, and I was thankful that I had just a short distance to go, yet we could cover the needs of the park and have the staff at that time, you know, during the height of the storm, stay at home where they were safe. So.
And I'm sure there must be some disadvantages to living close to work too. So.
Well, there are disadvantages again. The minute that we're outside, it always seems that I'm engaged. If I look out the windows or, you know, observing, and that's just part of the nature of living on site. And, you know, for a disadvantage, yet it's an advantage to the county, and it's a disadvantage at the point that I got to discipline myself to try to disengage from work, and that's harder, you know, to do than it seems.
Yeah.
But at the same point, growing up with the lifestyle of living on a farm and always being at work, I guess it's fit well into my upbringing.
Yeah. So living on a farm has probably prepared you well for outdoor resource management and park management. What would you say are some of your greatest joys of serving as Olmsted County or Chester Woods County Park Manager?
Well, you know, I guess one of the greatest, and I can only attribute to people like you, Ernie, working with the number of seasonal staff, full-time staff that I've seen in my career here. as well as the volunteers that were here even before the park began. And some of those individuals are still with us, helping us out as volunteers. And so those things just, I've enjoyed. I've never not enjoyed coming to work and working with the people that either are on salary or those that come out here because they want to be at the park. So to me, that's one of those perks. And then the other thing is the number of not volunteers, but volunteers and the people that use the park that come out and just whether they comment to me. It's even greater when I can be on the recipient end of that comment and hearing it given to whether it's a volunteer or seasonal staff, of how much they've enjoyed, the park and the things that are offered here at this park. So,
very good. Well, I know that for me too, one of the joys is just working with the staff and other volunteers and interrelating with them and have such a like-mindedness. There must be some frustrations though serving as park manager. We don't want you to go on forever, but maybe you could think about one or
well, yeah. So I guess the biggest one asked this question, and that is, just this morning in a staff meeting, we heard of vandalism, something that was obstructed, destroyed in the park, and that's always frustrating when individuals come out, maybe with the intent or maybe not with the intent, but when things are destroyed for the enjoyment of all. There's a lot of effort that goes into what we do out here, and so that's a frustration. Yet at the same point, the staff are very quick to try to resolve that act of vandalism. And so within just a few minutes of hearing it, staff were already seeking out ways, how can we fix it, resolve it, and take care of that issue so that someone coming behind perhaps will not see it, but be able to enjoy what it was intended for.
So, well, one of the things that I've been connected with a lot is, as a volunteer, is just kind of looking at the volunteer program here. And how long have volunteers, you said that there were volunteers here when you came on as park manager already.
Absolutely, yeah. There were folks that were involved in the resource management end of it. Joel Dannett is one individual that comes to mind who was here, who surveyed a lot of this land before the county actually purchased it for its native remnants. And so Joel is still active on our Friends board. Right. And been involved, but even even with that, before I showed up here in the 95, there was kids that were coming out that were involved with helping to clean up this park. So the county had purchased it, and yet there was junior high kids coming in for years before I even showed up, and then there was other volunteers that were involved besides that. So.
Well, my volunteer connection was I retired in 2008, I think, and I was listening to the radio one morning, and Tom Ryan, our former park superintendent, had a radio program on KROC, and he was talking about volunteers, and I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. I think I'll and I really don't know that much about Chester Woods. I think I'll call out there and see if they need volunteers. And you answered the phone. And it's been a wonderful relationship ever since. I just have a sense that maybe over the last 4 years, our volunteer interest has really increased. Do you think that's?
Well, I think, I would agree with that statement, Ernie, that our volunteer has increased. At the same point, I also, it saddens me to think of some of the volunteers that have served us over the years or served this county park, who are no longer with us, of just the nature of the beast of growing older. And so, but yes, we've seen an increase in volunteer hours. We see the increase in kind of the resource management side of things, as well as we've had some come and go that have helped us with more of the day-to-day general taking care of the parks. We just call it general maintenance items. And for those folks, we just, we're thankful that there's always someone that's coming in that's helping to replace.
Yeah.
And then as the board, the Friends of Chester Woods board has solidified itself and has been active now in the park system, helps to just, again, keep a presence here of volunteerism and a constant, reaching out to the community in various means to attract new volunteers.
So we have on our friendsofchesterwoods.org website a number of categories that volunteers can get involved with. And then there's even one called Design Your Own, I think. So, and the park staff here is very accommodating to people's desires and just helping them to fulfill their needs, to be outside and help with whatever the park needs to have happen. So I think it would be true to say that Chester Woods is one of the premier regional parks in Minnesota.
It is.
And I want to thank you for all that you do to help to make it that. And also our thanks to Olmsted County too for providing the resources that's necessary, because certainly this park is not a self-supporting venture. You say that maybe half of the resources that come into the park pay for what actually is needed here. So,
Right.
So, and then we also maybe wanted to point out too that when we consider volunteer hours, which we try to track, volunteer hours are about the same as the number of paid staff hours during the year. So
they are. Yeah,
so that's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah.
So,
and again, it's just a privilege to be able to work here. It's hard to believe that we are coming up on our 25th celebration here, just in actually a matter of, for me, that's less than a month away. That 25 years ago I started with the Olmsted County as a full-time staff.
Oh, well,
member.
Maybe you'll have a cake then on that particular day.
It either will be cake or like we had today, it might be a piece of pie.
Okay.
But that's coming up. But again, it's just been a joy to work with the individuals here. The agency has been a great place, and I guess we often I always wish that we could do more. And there's just funding has been usually is an issue, but between the volunteers that show up out here and the things that, again, what the county approves for increase in whether it's increasing our revenue or increasing our spendings, enables us to do more. And so, but again, it's so much of it is the volunteer part of it is so important to keeping our parks in Olmsted County functioning the way that they do.
Well, this camper cabin is kind of a recent amenity here in the park. I was wondering, did the parks, or did Chester Woods begin, when it began, did it offer like rental kayaks and canoes, or was that added later?
Yeah, rentals actually became a part early on. I know that first couple of years we had just a small fleet of rental equipment. I can remember some paddle boats. In fact, we used to store those paddle boats up here in our campground restroom, and then the canoes, a few canoes that we had. But yeah, slowly we started to increase the rental fleet, and right now it's one of the most popular things that folks come out here, besides the camping. But when they're staying here, between the beach and water recreation, using whether it's...
Was the beach original?
The beach was.
The beach was original?
Yep.
Can you think of any other amenities that have been added?
That we've added?
Mostly maintaining what we've got, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I know the cabins have been an amenity that we've added to the camping, what we have here. As far as other amenities, trails didn't exist at the time when the park opened. There was trails that were used prior to the park development. But those first couple of years, we implemented close to the 15 miles of trails that we now offer. But because, again, going back to our volunteerism, we're proud to say that we're offering multi-groomed trails, which is something that we didn't have those early years, and we worked with what we had to provide ski trails. And so we've gone from what used to be 3 miles of offered winter recreation trails to where now we have at least 10 miles of groomed trails. And again, 90% of that is done by our volunteers.
Okay.
And we can't operate groomed trails without volunteers.
Okay,